get into it. Number 9. While fishing in Key West, Florida, this kayaker finds himself in a strenuous fight with a big bull shark. The determined fisherman thought he'd caught a large gray snapper on a live line and was struggling with it until he realized it was a bull shark. He kept the shark on the line, looking to see if he could get a video of it in shallower waters, only to find that the tolerant shark finally lost its patience and launched an attack. You see the bull shark charge and bite the side of his kayak, startling the fisherman. Not wanting to risk another attack, he cuts the line and flees to safer waters. Lesson learned here. Number 8. At this point, kayaking is sounding very unappealing. Even more so after this run-in with a hammerhead. A California fisherman was out fishing in his kayak when he felt a jolting bump at the rear. In the video, we see him frantically glance about him as he struck again. Finally, he sees what hit him, a young hammerhead shark who's determined to make a meal out of him. Marcus had to act fast because another hit could topple his kayak over and offer him whole to the predator. What had begun as a simple hunt for halibut had turned into a battle for his life that he didn't plan for. Marcus immediately struck back at the fierce shark with his paddle, trying to fend off the repeated attacks. The aggressive hammerhead continued to circle and strike at the lone fisherman. One would think the shark would retreat after being continually hit, but he was a resilient one. For several heart-pounding minutes, the two battle it out from every angle. Then, for a brief moment, the shark backs off and slowly circles him, leaving the kayaker alone just long enough to paddle the heck out of there. Keeping a watchful eye on the shark that's trailing behind, he heads towards the shoreline. After a while, the shark had seemingly disappeared, giving Marcus some time to relax and reflect on what just happened. But not for long. The shark appears again and starts circling, searching for a way in. With one more good strike as the hammerhead comes in for another attempt, Marcus is able to fend it off and continue paddling until he reaches the shore, with the shark in hot pursuit. With shaky hands, he points out to where the hammerhead is still lingering close to the shore, impatiently waiting for him to return. Number 7. While on a shark dive in Fiji waters, the diver almost loses his head to the belly of a tiger shark. Surrounded by fish, one of the divers pops up to try and get a better view and ends up directly in the path of a large tiger shark, giving him the shock of his life. Lucky for him, a shark wrangler was quick on the draw and shoved a bar between the diver's head and the shark's gaping mouth, triggering the shark to clamp down on it, giving the diver enough time to duck and push the shark up and out of the way of the rest of the group. Number 6. Kerry Daniel was spearfishing off the coast of North Queensland, Australia, near the Great Barrier Reef with friends when he came face to face with his worst nightmare. He drifted a ways from the group and noticed a bull shark about 55 yards below him. Suddenly, the shark charged straight for him, with jaws wide open, fixing to take a chunk out of his flesh. Even if his friends were close by, there's nothing they could have done to help him. With his life flashing before his eyes, Kerry did the only thing he could. He plunged his spear gun into the hungry mouth of the shark in self-defense, just in the nick of time. The shark ripped the spear gun and the line out of his hand and tussled with it. Kerry didn't realize the gun was stuck in its mouth and was waiting for it to spit it out, but then decided he'd better not stick around and got himself out of there. It all happened so fast there was barely any time to react, let alone defend himself. If you were in his shoes, what would you have done? Let us know in the comments below. Number 5. A group of snorkelers were filming a pod of pilot whales off the coast of Hawaii when suddenly an oceanic white-tipped shark appeared, displaying aggressive behavior. It kept a bit of distance and then eventually swam off, but not for long. The shark came back around a second time, making a much more uncomfortably close pass by a couple of them before disappearing again. After some time passed, the group returned their attention back to the pilot whales when the shark suddenly re-emerged, this time targeting one of the guys that had just begun to dive down. With a swift turn, it sunk its teeth into the man's arm and back before backing off once again. Thankfully, the diver escaped with only minor lacerations, and lucky for all, the shark went away after sampling its pound of flesh, and the snorkelers were able to leave the water safely. I guess the shark didn't like the taste of humans after all. Number 4. Julian was diving in the deep blue with the Under the Pole team in the South Pacific when he had the crucial fight for his life. The divers were just starting the decompression stage of the dive when a gray shark caught their attention, confusing the crew with its weird, jerky way of swimming. They'd never seen anything like it before in all their years of coming in contact with sharks while diving. Julian filmed the shark during their ascension, watching it sway back and forth in a weird manner. He followed the shark off the wall into open water, getting dangerously close when it suddenly turned and attacked him, sinking its teeth into Julian's head. After a heart-pounding moment, the shark released him and charged the diver, filming the scene before disappearing into the deep blue. The situation became critical. Julian was bleeding, and they didn't know the severity of the bite, but they couldn't advance quickly to the surface since they had to go through the decompression stages, critical to a diver's safety. During the attack, the shark bit through his mask and lost his rebreather, but he remained calm and was able to use his emergency bottle. Fortunately, Julian was able to hold out until they reached the top, where he was stitched and treated on the boat. The crew members couldn't believe how fast the attack happened. Number 3. While divers were filming great white sharks from the safety of a shark cage in the Guadalupe waters, a large shark approached, taking a curious bite of the rubber on the side of the cage. Realizing it's not edible, it turns its attention to the contents within those steel bars. As it circled slowly to the front, divers watched on as the shark lightly tested the bars, giving them a nice show of the razor-sharp teeth lining his jaws before moving on. Getting in a shark cage is not for the faint of heart. Sometimes things can go horribly wrong, but these divers were thankful for their best-case scenario. Number 2. Paul and friends went spearfishing at the Coral Sea in Australia when they encountered the worst thing imaginable. While on a breath hold, a tiger shark happened upon them, aggressively charging Paul and his dive buddy several times. They try to fend off with their spear guns, doing their best to keep it at bay, but it refuses to leave them alone. The shark repeatedly advances on the two men again and again, trying to find a way past their spear guns, all while they ascend to the surface and call for the boat. Getting out of the water poses significant risk, but the two manage to hurl themselves into the boat just in time, and the crew celebrates, ecstatic that they just escaped this wild encounter. Number 1. 8-year-old Nathan was spearfishing in the Bahamian waters while his parents watched over him from the boat. He was going from reef to reef, exploring the little nooks and crannies, and had just come up for a breath of air when a 5-foot black-tipped reef shark appeared and slowly advanced on the young boy. Nate readied his spear in self-defense as his father was quickly handed a spear just in time to help fend off the shark that launched at the young boy, saving him from what could have been a very nasty bite. Despite these crazy encounters, it's not often you find yourself face-to-face with a shark when you step foot in the ocean, but that doesn't stop us from feeling heightened senses of fear of the deep blue sea, and these videos likely will add to that paranoia. It certainly did for me.